My parents kicked me out after my brother got my girlfriend pregnant and gave him my trust fund. Growing up, I always thought my family was normal. You know, not perfect, but what family is. My dad, a 61-year-old male, worked as a bank manager, made good money, and always bragged about his promotions at family gatherings. He was the kind of guy who wore a robe even at weekend barbecues and made sure everyone knew how important he was at the company. He had a way of talking about money that made it clear he valued people based on their earning potential. I remember him sizing up my high school friends, asking what their parents did for a living and what college they were planning to go to. My mom, a 58-year-old female, was an elementary school teacher and somehow managed to be sweet to everyone else's kids, but a nightmare to me at home. She was the type of mom who volunteered for every PTA event, baked cookies for the entire school, but then came home and berated me for not making my bed perfectly or leaving a glass in the sink. Her favorite line was always, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" which, for the record, messes with any kid's head. And then there was my younger brother, Ryan, a 26-year-old male, the golden child. To my parents, Ryan could do no wrong. He was terrible at sports, but they went to every single game, cheering him on like he was the star player. If he struck out in baseball, it was the pitcher's fault for throwing a bad ball. If he messed up in football, it was the coach's fault for not knowing how to use his talent. He'd get bad grades in school, and they'd praise him for trying hard and having diverse interests beyond academics. Meanwhile, I'd kill myself studying to get straight A's, and they'd just ask why I had not done the extra credit or joined more clubs to strengthen my college application. I was never the favorite, but I did not realize how bad it was until the day I got accepted into a pretty competitive university with a partial scholarship. At that exact moment, Ryan had failed 2 classes and was on academic probation at his high school. During what should have been a celebratory dinner for my college acceptance, my parents spent the entire night consoling Ryan, telling him that the education system did not recognize different types of intelligence, and promising to get him a tutor. My acceptance letter stayed on the fridge for exactly 2 days before mysteriously disappearing. Ryan's participation certificate from the junior varsity baseball team, meanwhile, stayed up there for 3 years. After high school, I joined the military. Not because I was particularly patriotic, but because I needed to get away from my family. I could not handle another day of being the ghost in the house, the one whose accomplishments were barely acknowledged, while Ryan's mediocrity was celebrated with parties. Plus, college was expensive, and despite my dad's banking job, they made it clear their financial support would be distributed based on need, which somehow always meant Ryan needed more. I spent 4 years as a combat medic, deployed twice to Afghanistan. They were the hardest years of my life, but also, somehow, the clearest. Combat gives you clarity, you know? Who's got your back and who doesn't, what your job is, and what success means. No mind games, no shifting expectations, no golden child to compete with. Just you, your training, and the guys who depended on you. I came back with a busted knee and some stories I do not tell at parties. The knee was from a bad landing during a medevac under fire. Nothing heroic, just bad luck and rough terrain. The stories, well, some things you see as a combat medic stay with you, change how you look at everyday problems. After holding a 19-year-old's intestines in place while waiting for a medevac chopper, it is hard to get worked up about someone cutting you off in traffic. My parents barely acknowledged my service. My dad cracked a joke about how I was just putting band-aids on people, while Ryan was building a real future, working as a personal trainer at a local gym. This, coming from a man who had never been further from home than a business conference in Cleveland. My mom changed the subject every time I mentioned the military, as if my 4 years of service were some embarrassing phase, akin to when Ryan dyed his hair blue for 3 weeks in 10th grade. When I got back, my grandmother left me a trust fund of about 140,000 pesos. She passed away while I was on my second deployment, and I could not even make it back for the funeral since I was in the middle of nowhere in Afghanistan. My grandma always saw through my parents. She was the only one who truly saw me. She went to my academic award ceremonies when my parents were too busy with Ryan's baseball practice. She'd slip me $20 bills for books and tell me how proud she was. The trust fund was specifically for me, with clear instructions that it was to be used to help me establish my life and career. It was not life-changing money, but it was enough for a down payment on a small house, and maybe, someday, start a business with my VA benefits. I enrolled in business school with the idea of opening a veteran-focused gym, something to help guys coming back with problems worse than my knee. PTSD, missing limbs, traumatic brain injuries, the kind of wounds that made my knee pain feel like a paper cut. That's where I met Mia. She was something special. Dark hair, green eyes, smart as hell. She was studying physical therapy, and I met her when she was interning at the VA hospital during one of my checkups. She had this way of explaining things that made the complicated seem simple, without making you feel stupid. And her hands, firm but gentle, when she showed me exercises for my knee, sometimes I'd do them wrong on purpose, just so she'd have to guide my movements again. We hit it off right away and started dating. 8 months in, we moved in together. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was building something real, something mine. Mia did not compare me to anyone. She listened when I talked about the military, no subject changes, no uncomfortable looks like my parents always gave me. She asked questions, genuinely interested, wanted to know about the good stuff and the hard stuff, too. I even introduced her to my family, something I rarely did with the women I dated. My parents seemed to like her, although my mother did not miss a chance to drop her passive-aggressive comments, as usual. "Oh, you are a physical therapist? How nice. You know Ryan's girlfriend is finishing up med school." She was not. She was a part-time receptionist at a dermatology clinic, and had only mentioned that maybe, someday, she'd apply for nursing school. Ryan, that jerk, was always extra nice to Mia. Too nice. Looking back, I see it clearly now. At family dinners, he'd always manage to sit next to her, find excuses to touch her arm while they talked, constantly bring up stories about gym clients he'd helped recover, just to steer the conversation towards physical therapy. I thought he was just trying to impress my girlfriend, show off what a great guy he was. Turns out, I was right about the impressive part, just wrong about everything else. When Mia and I moved in together, Ryan suddenly took an unusual interest in visiting us. He would swing by unannounced, always when I'd mentioned having a late class or working extra hours at the gym where I managed. He'd bring beers or takeout, saying he just wanted to see how we were settling in, or that he was in the neighborhood. At first, I was grateful. I thought maybe he was trying to be a better brother, support this new phase in my life. Grateful, God, I was naive. I was planning on proposing to Mia. I had the ring and everything. Nothing fancy, but it was what I could afford after putting most of my savings into the down payment on a small house we'd been looking at. It was modest, 3 bedrooms, decent neighborhood, but it would be ours, a place to build a life together, maybe start a family eventually. I was working as a manager at a local gym, finishing up my business degree, and it felt like everything was finally falling into place. And then came that Tuesday. My last client canceled, so I left work early and decided to surprise Mia at the apartment. I picked up takeout from that Thai place she loved and a bottle of wine, figuring we'd have a nice night in. Maybe I'd even propose, if the moment felt right. I had the ring in my pocket, a small sapphire instead of a diamond, because she'd once mentioned she loved that color. When I pulled into our complex's parking lot, I noticed Ryan's ridiculous lifted truck, the one my parents helped him buy while I was dodging bullets overseas. It was hard to miss. With its stupid custom paint job and oversized tires he clearly did not need for driving exclusively on suburban streets. For a second, I thought maybe he was just dropping something off. Mia and I had been talking about having a family dinner that weekend. Maybe, for once in his life, Ryan was being helpful. As I walked up the stairs to our second-floor apartment, I heard it, Mia's laugh. Then Ryan's voice, low, saying something I could not make out. Then, silence. There's this moment, right before your life falls apart, where your brain tries to protect you. It offers you all these innocent explanations, these alternate realities where what you are about to discover is not actually happening. Maybe they are watching a movie. Maybe they are planning a surprise for you. Maybe it is totally harmless and you are just being paranoid. Your brain will do anything to avoid processing what, deep down, you already know is true. I unlocked the door as quietly as possible. The takeout bag felt heavy in my hand. I remember thinking how stupid that detail was. I was focusing on the weight of a takeout bag while my world was about to implode. I walked in, and there they were on our couch. The couch I'd saved up for 3 months to buy. They did not even notice me at first. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion, except the car was my relationship, and the crash was my brother's body inside my girlfriend. I do not remember dropping the food. I do not remember the exact words I screamed. But I do remember Ryan's face. Not surprised, just annoyed at being interrupted. And I remember Mia scrambling to cover herself, tears starting to well up. Not tears of shame, I realized later. Tears of being caught. How long? Was all I could manage to ask. Bro, chill, Ryan said, as if he'd just been caught raiding my leftovers from the fridge and not with the woman I loved. He had the nerve to sound irritated, as if I was overreacting for catching them. 8 months, Mia whispered. 8 months. Almost our entire relationship. While I was planning a future, buying furniture, looking at houses, picking out a goddamn engagement ring, they were laughing behind my back. Every time Ryan swung by, when I was not home, every time Mia's phone buzzed with a text and she smiled to herself, every time she was too tired or not in the mood, suddenly it all made horribly perfect sense. I lost it. I grabbed Ryan by the throat and slammed him against the wall. Maybe to my parents he was the athletic one, but 4 years of military training and carrying wounded soldiers across mountains made me stronger than he'd ever be. I could have killed him right there, and part of me wanted to. I wanted to feel his windpipe collapse under my fingers. I wanted to see the arrogance drain from his face along with the oxygen. So instead, I just told them both to get out. Now. Not tomorrow, not in an hour. Now. Mia tried to explain, through tears, that it just happened, that she was confused. She said she loved me, but that she'd developed feelings for Ryan, that she did not know how to tell me, that she did not want to hurt me. The absolute irony of it all. He did not say a word. He just gathered his clothes and left. No apologies, no explanations, nothing. Just zipped up his pants and walked out. Like this was a minor inconvenience in his day. The last thing he said was, "I'll call you later." To her, not to me. Like they already had plans to discuss this, strategies to deal with the fallout of being discovered. They probably did. I spent that night destroying everything in the apartment that reminded me of either of them. The neighbor called the cops because of the noise. 2 officers showed up, took one look at the state of the place and my bloody knuckles, and asked if I was a veteran. When I said yes, one of them, an older guy who mentioned having served in Iraq, just nodded. He did not give me a ticket, just a card with the number for the VA crisis line, and told me to get help before I did something I'd regret. Good guy. I still have that card somewhere. The next day, I got a call from my mother. It was not to see if I was okay, not to apologize for raising a piece of treacherous. No, she called to tell me I needed to calm down and be reasonable. Ryan and Mia are very upset about how you reacted, she said, like I was the one who'd done something wrong, like I was the villain in this story. I could not believe what I was hearing. Are you serious? I said. He screwed my girlfriend of 8 months in my apartment, behind my back, and I am the one who needs to calm down? These things happen, Jason. Adults handle them maturely. Ryan says it was not planned, that they developed feelings for each other. You can't control who you fall in love with. I wanted to throw up. Love? You call this love? They did not fall in love, Mom. They screwed behind my back for months, in my bed, on my couch. That's not love, it is betrayal. Well, they're together now, and you're going to have to accept it. We're still family, and I expect you to behave civilly at dinner on Sunday. I laughed so hard I almost choked. You expect me to sit down to dinner with them? Are you insane? Do not use that language with me, young man. Your father and I raised you better than that. Apparently, you did not raise Ryan that way. She gasped like I'd slapped her. Ryan's always been sensitive, you know. He feels terrible about hurting you, but he cannot help how he feels. Mia is special to him. That's when it hit me. They were not just excusing what Ryan did, they were actively supporting it. In their twisted minds, Ryan's happiness mattered more than my pain, more than basic human decency. And what about how I feel? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. What about the fact that I was going to propose? I thought she was the one. There was a pause. You were going to propose? Well, honey, maybe this is for the best, before you made a commitment you'd regret. Clearly, Mia was not the right one for you. If she could develop feelings for Ryan so easily. The mental gymnastics were Olympic level. Somehow, in their twisted logic, Mia cheating on me with Ryan was not a reflection of them being terrible people, but of me having picked the wrong girlfriend. Do not come to dinner, she continued. Not with that attitude. When you are ready to be an adult about this, we'll welcome you back. I hung up and blocked her number. The next few days were a blur of rage and betrayal. I got texts from my dad saying I was tearing the family apart with my overreaction. Ryan had the audacity to text me, saying he hoped we could still be brothers because family is forever. Mia sent me a 4-page email about how sorry she was, how complicated emotions can be, and how she never meant to hurt me. I deleted it all without finishing it. That weekend, I moved out of the apartment. I could not stand to be in the place they'd desecrated. Every time I looked at the couch, I saw them there. Every time I walked into the bedroom, I wondered if they'd been there too. I broke the lease, lost my security deposit, and found a cheap studio across town. I buried myself in work and school, trying to numb the pain with exhaustion. My army buddies stayed in touch. Some offered to have a talk with Ryan, which was their way of saying they'd beat the crap out of him. I appreciated the loyalty, but I turned them down. Violence would not fix anything. Plus, I was saving all my rage for something better than a moment of satisfaction. 3 weeks later, I got an email from the bank. The trust fund my grandmother had left me, the one that was in a joint account with my parents until I turned 30, had been emptied. The 140,000 pesos were gone. I called the bank, panicking, only to be told that my father, as co-trustee, had withdrawn the funds. It was legal. The account had a clause allowing the co-trustee access to the money in case of family emergencies or significant investments. It was supposed to be a safeguard in case I was in trouble and needed help before 30. Instead, it had become the perfect loophole for my father to rob me. That night, I drove to my parents' house, adrenaline and rage coursing through my veins. When I got there, I saw Ryan's Jeep in the driveway, next to a new Honda CR-V I did not recognize. The porch light was on, and I could see movement through the living room windows. They were having some kind of gathering. Of course they were. Life went on for them, while mine burned to the ground. I pounded on the door until my father opened it, his expression more annoyed than guilty. He was still wearing his work clothes, his tie loosened but not removed, always keeping up appearances. "Where is my money?" I demanded, pushing past him into the house. "Keep your voice down, Jason. We have guests." In the living room, sitting on the couch, were my mother, Ryan, Mia, and an older couple I did not recognize, but who I assumed were Mia's parents. They were drinking champagne and looking at what appeared to be house listings spread across the coffee table. A celebration. While I was living in a crappy studio, sleeping on an air mattress because I'd left most of my furniture behind, they were celebrating. "What is this?" I said, gesturing at the cozy gathering. "Language," my mother snapped, as if that was the biggest problem in the room. Always the appearances, what other people might think, never what was right. "Jason," my father interjected, trying to sound authoritative, "this is not the time or place for your dramatics." "My dramatics? You stole 140,000 pesos from me, money Grandma left me, and I am being dramatic?" I looked around the room. Everyone here knows what's going on. Mia's parents know she cheated on me with my brother for 8 months. They know you are using my inheritance to fund their love nest. Mia's parents shifted uncomfortably, but Ryan just put his arm around Mia, who could not even meet my eyes. She was wearing a small diamond ring on her left hand, one that definitely wasn't there 3 weeks ago. "We did not steal anything," my father said coldly. "That money was in a trust that I co-managed. I made an executive decision to reallocate it to a family investment." "A family investment?" I repeated. "What investment?" "Enough." My father snapped, his face red. "I will not tolerate this kind of language or behavior in my house. The decision is made. The money is being used for this family's future." My mother smiled, that fake PDA smile she used at meetings, the one that never reached her eyes. "Ryan and Mia are getting married. Isn't it wonderful? And they found the perfect house to start their lives in. Your father and I are helping them with the down payment as a wedding gift." I glanced at the papers on the coffee table. Sure enough, it was a purchase agreement for a house. A 400,000 peso house in the nice part of town. And there, on the financing page, was the down payment amount, 120,000 pesos. They'd used my trust fund to buy my cheating brother and ex-girlfriend a house. Not just any house, a better one than I could have afforded myself. A house that should have been my future, my fresh start. "You have got to be kidding me," I said, my voice deathly calm despite the hurricane raging inside me. That dangerous calm had returned, the one that comes when you are so angry your emotions do a full 180 and become cold, calculating rage. Ryan finally spoke. Look, Jas, I know this is awkward, but awkward. I cut him off. You screwed my girlfriend, you stole my inheritance, and you think this is just awkward? I looked at Mia. And you're really going to go through with this? You're going to live in a house bought with money that was meant for me? Money from my grandmother, who never even met you. How can you sleep at night? No one stole anything. My father interjected. That money was always meant to help both of our children start their lives. Ryan and Mia are starting a family. A family. I looked at Mia. You're pregnant? She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. 3 months. The math was easy. She'd been cheating on me with Ryan for 8 months. She was 3 months pregnant. There was a good chance she'd been sleeping with both of us when she got pregnant. Just the thought made my stomach churn. Is it even his? I blurted out, without thinking. The slap came out of nowhere. My mother, her face twisted in fury. How dare you? After everything we've done for you. Ryan and Mia are in love. They're having a baby, and they need a stable home. What were you going to do with that money, anyway? Waste it on some gym for broken soldiers? I touched my cheek where she'd hit me, strangely calm. That slap crystallized everything for me. The years of favoritism, the constant dismissal of my accomplishments, the utter lack of respect for my service, for my sacrifices, for my very existence. You know what? You deserve each other. All of you. I am done. Jason, my father started, his voice stern, be reasonable. Reasonable? You stole my inheritance to buy a house for the brother who screwed my girlfriend behind my back. Tell me, Dad, what part of that sounds reasonable to you? We're family, he said, as if that explained everything. Family supports each other through hard times. Family doesn't do what you did. I shot back. Matt grabbed my arm. Come on, man, don't be like this. It's not like you and Mia were married or anything. I looked at his hand on my arm, then at his face. That smug face that had always gotten everything he wanted in life. The golden child, the favorite, the one who never did anything wrong, even when he was clearly in the wrong. Touch me again, I said quietly, and I'll break every single finger you make a living with. He let go of my arm instantly, taking a step back. For the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes. Good. Let him be afraid. Let him wonder how much I'd changed in those 4 years in Afghanistan, what I was capable of now. You are not welcome here until you can behave, my mother said as I walked out. Until you can be happy for your brother's blessings. I stopped at the door and turned back. I won't be back. Ever. The day after the confrontation, I dropped out of my classes, broke my lease, and left. It was not the smartest decision emotionally, but I needed to get as far away from that town as possible. I went back to school in a different state. Finished my business degree, then got a master's in healthcare administration. It was in one of my classes I met Marcus, who had the same idea I did, a veteran-focused wellness center. He'd been a logistics officer and had the business experience I lacked. I had the medical knowledge and military connections he needed. Plus, he was a black guy who'd grown up in the foster system, had his own history of family disappointment. When I told him my past, there were no judgments, just understanding. We opened the first center 2 years after I graduated. A gym, physical therapy clinic, and counseling center all in one, designed specifically for veterans transitioning back to civilian life. We hired staff who understood military culture, who would not flinch at dark humor or freeze up when someone had a flashback. We kept prices low, operating as a nonprofit and securing grants for veterans who could not afford care. We grew faster than we expected. Within 3 years, we had 4 locations across the state, and were looking at expanding nationally. Turned out, there was a massive need for a place where veterans did not have to explain themselves, downplay their experiences, or pretend they had not seen what they'd seen. A place built by people who understood. I met Sarah at a veteran suicide prevention fundraiser. She was a psychologist specializing in trauma and PTSD. Smart, compassionate, and beautiful, with none of Mia's selfishness. Her dad had been a Vietnam vet who'd struggled with PTSD his whole life, which inspired her to pursue her career. She got it, understood the military mindset without idealizing or fearing it. We took things slow. Both of us had baggage to unpack, but after a year, I knew she was the one. We moved in together, and 6 months later, I proposed. No drama, No complications, just two people who respected and loved each other, building a life together. The proposal was simple. We were on a hike, reached a scenic overlook with a view of the city, and I told her that, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be, with the person I was supposed to be with. I got down on one knee, sapphire, not diamond, because she once mentioned loving that color and offered it to her. She cried and said yes. I actually cried too, which surprised us both. We bought a house together, nothing extravagant, but comfortable. 3 bedrooms, a decent yard, enough space to grow. I paid for it with money I'd earned, not stolen. Every mortgage payment was a reminder that I'd built this life from scratch, on my terms, without the help of the people who should have supported me. I'd made it. I'd built a life surrounded by people who loved me for who I was, not what I could do for them. I had purpose, success, love, everything my family had tried to take from me. I never looked for them. Never checked Ryan or Mia's social media. Never drove by the house they bought with my stolen future. To me, they did not exist. I had no family, except the one I was building with Sarah, with our friends, with the veterans we helped every day. Until one day, my phone rang with an unknown number, and for the first time in 5 years, I heard my mother's voice. Jason, Jason, please do not hang up. Her voice sounded older, rougher than I remembered. I should have hung up immediately, but curiosity kept me on the line. And also, a certain satisfaction in knowing that now, she was the one seeking me out, not the other way around. What do you want? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. It's so good to hear your voice. We've missed you so much. Cut the crap, Mom. What do you want? She sighed, dropping the fake warmth. We need your help. Ryan's in trouble. I do not have a family, I replied coldly. Please, just listen, things have been hard. Your father lost his job 3 years ago. The bank made cutbacks, and at his age, he could not find another position. We've been living off his pension, but it's not enough. Sounds like a personal problem. Jason, please. Ryan and Mia are also struggling. The house, she trailed off, probably realizing that bringing up the house they bought with my money was not the best tactic. The house you bought them with my trust fund, I finished for her. What happened? They did not budget for the property taxes. It's more complicated than that. Ryan got injured. He cannot work as a trainer anymore. Tore his rotator cuff, needed surgery, developed a painkiller addiction. He's been in and out of rehab twice. I almost laughed at the irony. The golden child, the athletic one, sidelined by a sports injury, while the damaged veteran built a successful business. They have 3 kids now, she continued. And Mia had to quit her job to take care of them and Ryan. They're behind on the mortgage, and this concerns me. How exactly? I asked, still typing away at an email. Your father and I have been helping them as much as we can, but we're stretched thin, too. The medical bills, the rehab costs, it's been a nightmare. And now the bank is threatening to foreclose on the house. I laughed. I could not help it. Let me get this straight. You want me to help the people who betrayed me, robbed me, and kicked me out of the family? Why would I do that? Because we're blood, she said, like that meant anything after what they'd done. Family, I repeated. You know, in the past 5 years, I've learned a lot about family. Real family supports you. Real family respects you. Real family doesn't steal your inheritance to give to the brother who was screwing your girlfriend. We made mistakes, she admitted, her voice cracking. And for a split second, I almost felt something, a tiny echo of the son who once desperately craved his mother's approval. I squashed it immediately. Terrible mistakes. But we're desperate, Jason. We could lose everything. Like how I lost everything. The girlfriend, the trust fund, the family support, that kind of losing everything. She started to cry then, big, dramatic sobs that might have once moved me. The bank is going to take the house. They'll have to move in with us. But we can barely afford our own bills. Your father's health isn't good. He had a minor heart attack last year, and our insurance doesn't cover all his medications. We're drowning. And what do you expect me to do about it? We've seen the articles about your business, she said. The veteran wellness centers. You're successful now. We're so proud of what you've accomplished. No, I interrupted. Do not pretend you had anything to do with my success. You actively tried to prevent it. You took the money that was meant to help me start my life and gave it to Ryan. You have no right to be proud now that I've succeeded despite you, not because of you. You're right. You're absolutely right. We were wrong, and we've paid for it every day since you left. Please, Jason, if not for us, do it for your nieces and nephews. They're innocent in all of this. That gave me pause. The kids were innocent, it was true. Just like I had been innocent when my parents played favorites and made me feel like I was not good enough compared to Ryan. But they were not my responsibility. Their parents made their choices. This is what's going to happen, I said finally. I am going to hang up. You are not going to call me again. You made your decision 5 years ago, and now you're living with the consequences. That's how life works. Jason, please. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up, my hand shaking slightly. That night, Sarah found me on the balcony of our house. Everything okay? She asked, wrapping her arms around me from behind. Her presence was instantly comforting, grounding me back in the reality of the life we'd built together. My mother called, I said. They're having money troubles. They want me to bail them out. Sarah knew the whole story. I told her early on in our relationship, wanting complete honesty between us. She'd never judged me for cutting them out, never pressured me to reconcile for the sake of family. And what are you thinking? She asked. That karma's a bitch, I replied, and that I do not owe them a thing. She nodded, not trying to sway me one way or another. Whatever you decide, I am with you. That night, I got a text from Ryan's number. Mom told me she called you. I know I am the last person you want to hear from, but please, if not for me, do it for my kids. They do not deserve to suffer for my mistakes. I am begging you, man. Brother. The word felt hollow now, stripped of all meaning. I did not reply, but I could not sleep that night. Not because I felt guilty I'd long made peace with cutting my toxic family out, but because of those kids. 3 innocent kids who did not ask to be born to selfish, entitled parents. 3 kids who were about to learn the hard way that actions have consequences. I thought about the kid I'd been, always trying to earn the love that was freely given to my brother, always working twice as hard for half the recognition. I did not want that for any child. 2 weeks after my mother's call, I received an email from my father. It was long, detailed, and pathetic. A complete breakdown of their financial situation, the medical bills, the impending foreclosure on Ryan and Mia's house. Attached were pictures of the kids, 3 little ones, 2 boys and a girl, with my grandmother's eyes and Ryan's smile. A masterstroke of manipulation, I had to give him that. The desperate plea of a man out of options, but who still could not bring himself to truly apologize for what they'd done. He talked about family legacy and how blood is thicker than water, about how they regretted past misunderstandings like stealing 140,000 pesos from me, like it was just a little mix-up, like they had not deliberately chosen Ryan over me at every single turn. The email ended with, "We're not asking for a handout, son, just a chance to make things right, to be a family again. The kids ask about their Uncle Jason sometimes. What should we tell them?" I read it once, then deleted it without replying. The next day, I got a text from Ryan. "Mom said you called. I know I am the last person you want to hear from, but please, if not for me, do it for my kids. They do not deserve to suffer for my mistakes. I am begging you, man." Deleted. Then Mia tried. A long, tearful voicemail about how sorry she was, how she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, how the kids were innocent and needed help. Deleted. My mother called 17 times over the next week. My father sent 3 more emails. I blocked them all. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah asked one night as we watched the sunset from our balcony. "I'll support whatever you decide, but I want to make sure you're at peace with it." I thought about it for a moment. You know what I realized? They're not contacting us for me. If they were financially fine, I'd still be dead to them. They're not my responsibility, and neither are those kids, I said firmly, as harsh as that sounds. Ryan and Mia made their choices. Now it is their turn to live with the consequences. 6 months later, I saw an article in my hometown's online newspaper. The house, my house, the one they bought with the money stolen from my trust fund, had been foreclosed on and sold at auction. My parents had declared bankruptcy. Ryan and Mia moved to another state, to live with her parents. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not regret, not guilt. Just a quiet certainty that justice, finally, had been served. You know what's funny? I said to Sarah that night. They spent my whole life making me feel like I wasn't enough, like I needed them more than they needed me. And look how it all turned out. She smiled and squeezed my hand. The best revenge is living well. I nodded. and letting karma do the rest. Sometimes, silence is the loudest answer you can give. Sometimes, walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. I have not heard from them in over a year, and I do not expect to. Whatever happened to them after the foreclosure is none of my business. I built my life without them, and now they'll have to rebuild theirs without me. That's how my family learned that karma is not just a bitch. She's patient, she's got a long memory, and sometimes she takes everything you thought you were entitled to. Update. Holy crap, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and comments. To those asking if I'll ever truly forgive them or care about the kids, probably not. Those are not my kids, that's not my family. They made their choice 5 years ago, and I made mine when I ignored their pleas for help. Makes me cold, maybe, but I sleep just fine at night.